It's Wednesday, and I'm intentionally recording a podcast on Wednesday the 22nd of February, rather than just my haphazard. You get them whenever I manage to pull my finger out my arse. Yes, I'm intentionally recording today because today being the 22nd of February and tomorrow being the 23rd of February, that's usually how it works, is the beginning of pre-season testing for the upcoming Formula One season. And that means I won't talk much more sport here today. And then the next time I probably record a podcast, it'll probably mostly be motorsport. Pre-season testing this year, it's only 3 days, and it's exclusively held in Bahrain, as is the modern way with Formula One. Unfortunately, it's not in Barcelona as it has been for the last several years, because I actually probably would have went over for a day, because you can attend testing sessions. I know when it was in Spain last year, I think it was only like 12 quid or something to get a ticket to go in, and you watch all the action. Not a bad way to spend 12 quid, and why not spend a couple of days in Barcelona? But yeah, it's not in Barcelona this year. It's exclusively in Bahrain, and only 3 days of testing, which isn't a lot at all. I'm kind of pro that. I think less testing time is good, because it's, it throws in more variables for things to go wrong when the season starts. Sorry for the M's. But I won't go on too much about it because I'll talk about it next time. And preseason testing, it's hard to really take much away from it because you really don't know what way people are running their cars, whether they're sandbagging, what setups they're running in. But to be fair, in the last couple of years, it's kind of been pretty transparent. Those who were good, and those who were bad have been bad. And like, you can always tell then, if those who are having any reliability issues, reliability will generally rear its head in testing. Although last year Red Bull didn't have much unreliability issues in testing, and then they broke down in the first couple of races. Ferrari had bulletproof reliability in testing, and then their reliability caught up with them later on in the year. Anyway, I'm not going to talk much Formula One. The only other thing I'm going to mention ahead of the preseason testing is Lance Stroll, he of Aston Martin, whose father, Lawrence Stroll, owns the Formula One team, and partly why he is still in Formula One. Not saying he's a terrible driver. I think he gets a bit too much slack, but he's most certainly still on the grid and got there due to money and his powerful father. But he is going to miss preseason testing because he injured himself training. The full details of how or what he did are not entirely clear. There are some rumours going around that he's broken his wrist. So Felipe Drugovich is going to be standing in for him at preseason testing. Some people thought Fernando Alonso, who has now joined Aston Martin F1, was going to do all 3 days, but no. Felipe Drugovich will be doing at least some of the preseason testing work for Aston Martin. He's the current Formula 2 champion, if I'm not mistaken. And the fact that he's doing a couple of days testing and it's not just all at the hands of Fernando would make you think they're lining him up to maybe even do the first couple of races. Because if Lance has broken his wrist, I'd be surprised if he'll probably miss Bahrain, the first race, and I think there might be a 3-week break then before the second race, which is in Jeddah. So maybe he might make that. But you could see him possibly missing the first race because the first race is the first weekend of March. So we have preseason testing, and then it's straight into the season essentially. But yeah, that's I'm gonna reel it in there, and that's all I'm gonna say about Formula One. Because next week it will just be mostly Formula One, and there'll be a lot of Formula One chat then for the next several months because the season will be underway. It comes around fast these days. Back when I was a lad, the season would end around mid-October, and then you wouldn't hear anything about them until April. Well, you would. People like me, nerds, would read magazines and keep their finger on the pulse. But now it just Drive to Survive, social media, and the extended championship. It never seems like Formula One is far from our thoughts. And then the other motorsport, there was no WRC. I think the next WRC event is It's mid-March sometime. It's Rally... Is it Rally Mexico? I think it's Rally Mexico. And so there's no rallying. I don't think there was any major motorsport over the weekend. Not that I noticed, because I was away at the weekend, which I'll get to in a moment. But first I'll do my normal talking about anything that's going on in the world of motoring. Sad news, I think it was just announced today, that the Bentley W12 engine, they've announced that it will, well, not surprisingly, I think we all knew it was going to happen, but they've fully announced that the W12 engine is finally going to go out of production. They're going to stop making them in 2024. There's a rendering on, I don't know if it's typical, what would be the replacement for the current Continental GT of a Bentley. I'm not too sure. I just very much read the article, because it was on today. It's a strange looking thing. If I was to just take a passing glance on it, I would have said it's a Genesis. It's a strange looking thing. Go into Piston Heads and look up the article on the W12 and read it, unlike I did, and have a look at the picture. You'll see the picture I'm talking about. But yeah, no more 12-cylinder Bentley W12 engine. It's just sad. That's a characterful engine. As good as a V12, I don't know. I don't have enough experience in 12-cylinder cars, unfortunately, to say. But still, an interesting thing and a sad thing to see go. Not a whole lot. Oh, probably one of the most interesting things that happened in the last couple of days. Mitsuoko have confirmed the reintroduction of the Vute. The Vute, which has that, as I'm sure you all know, the pseudo British styled cars that come out of Japan, and the Vute being the one that was based on Nissan Micras, the kind of Mark II Jag front end on it. They're bringing it back. It's actually not based on Nissans anymore. This new one's going to be based on the current Yaris. And yeah, all power to them. The world's a better place with Mitsuoko Vutes. They're silly, but silly in a good way. I just now want to win the Euro Millions and then commission them to do one based on the GR Yaris, because that would just be batshit crazy. Piston Heads are 25 years old this year, and they've been running a couple of votes, to vote for the best sports car, hot hatch and stuff, of the last 25 years. So while they've been making, sorry, I got disturbed by a phone call there. Yeah, so voting for best. So there's one, they did the sports car one already, which I'll touch on again in a moment because it correlates with a story I'm going to tell in a moment. But they now have up for the one they have open at the moment is vote for the best hot hatch of the next 24 years. So I'm going to vote for this now, and you're going to join me on you're going to join me on this adventure. So how do we do? Here we go. Short list and vote now. What is on the short list? Whoa, it is long, so I'll skim through this quickly. Abarth 695 Baposto, Alpha 147 GTA, Audi RS3, BMW M140i, 128 Ti, Citroen Saxo VTS, Leon Cupra Or, Focus RS Mark 1, Focus RS 500, that's the Mark II one, isn't it? Mark 3 Focus RS, Fiesta ST Mark 7, Fiesta ST Mark 8, Civic Type R EP3, Civic Type R FK8, i30N, i20N, AMG A45S, MG ZR160, Mini GP R53, Mini GP R56, 106 Rally, 306 Rally, 208 GTI by Peugeot Sport, Clio V6 Phase 2, Clio 182 Trophy, Clio 200, Megane 275 Trophy, Megane 300, Impreza WRX STI, Suzuki Swift Sport, the first generation one, GR Yaris, Astra VXR, VXR Club Sport, Golf R32 Mark 4, Golf GTI Mark 5, Golf Or Mark 7, Golf GTI Performance Mark 7, and the Volkswagen Up GTI. Okay, there's quite a few there, and there's plenty there that you could write off straight away. I'll select up to 3. Okay. I haven't driven, and I don't think I've driven any of these cars. Well, I have. I've driven one or two of them, but I'm gonna have to base all of this voting on. I'm gonna vote for the Toyota Yaris GR Yaris, because one, I have a mate who owns one, and I've been in it, and it was great. And I think we can all surmise that it's one of the best cars to come out in the last decade. So we'll give the GR Yaris a nod. 182 trophy, because it's obviously there's been too much praise leaped on that. The normal round sport Clios are great, and the trophy is the cream of the crop. Okay, so we've one more vote. So I voted for the GR Yaris, the Clio 182 trophy. Who to give my third vote to? I do like the Mark II RS Focus, but the RS 500 one, I think it's too much of a expensive run out special. Obviously the trophy was kind of as well. Do you know what? I'm gonna vote for the Hyundai i30N, because again, which correlates into a story I'm about to tell in a moment. I bought the most recent issue of Evo, and they have a group test between the new Type R, Civic Type R, the i30N, the Audi RS3, and the Mark 8 Golf or 20th anniversary, whatever it's called. And the overall winner, the shock horror, goes to the Civic Type R, but the i30N ran it very close. And from reading the article, I won't spoil any of it in case you want to read it yourself, but although I've given you away the results, the i30N is probably the better all rounder compared to the Civic. The Civic is very much focused, like it's more unsettled and stuff on bumpy roads, but obviously you get the payoff when things get a bit smoother and much faster. A little bit of that there. But yeah, and obviously then the i30N is significantly less expensive than the Civic and the other two. So I'm gonna vote for the i30N. So I've gone for the GR Yaris, Clio Trophy, and the i30N. Of all three of them, the only one I'd realistically probably want to own, I wouldn't mind a GR Yaris, but a 182 trophy, I would absolutely. I'd give away my left leg for a 182 trophy, but then I wouldn't be able to operate the clutch, which would kind of defeat the purpose. So submit. I look forward to seeing how that goes. Yeah, that's pretty much all. Hasn't really been a whole lot of motoring news other than that. So the story. Sorry, jeez, I'm fucking knocked over my microphone. The story I was alluding to. So weekend just gone. If you follow me on social media, you'll notice I was in Stuttgart, and I went to Stuttgart to visit the home of Porsche and Mercedes. And I decided to get myself a rental car, because you can't seem to get a direct flight into Stuttgart from Dublin. So I flew into Frankfurt, got myself a rental car, and so I'd drive to my hotel in Stuttgart. And I decided, I'll go a little, I won't say all out, it wasn't particularly expensive, but, rather than just going for the cheapest option, which I tend to do, because I kind of like that. The cheapest option gives you a small little hatchback that you can just thrash, which is fun in itself. But I decided I'd rent myself a Mazda MX-5 or similar, and to my surprise, when I got to the rental desk, I actually got myself an MX-5. Now I got to the 6th rental desk at Frankfurt Airport at about 9:15, and got to my MX-5. By the time I got my phone set up and got in, comfortable, bags in and all ready to go, it was about 9:30, and from the get-go, I really felt like, yes, this was going to be a good weekend with the MX-5. As I was saying, just before I left, PissonHeads announced the results of the best sports car of the last 25 years on their website. Now, the ND MX-5 didn't win, but that went to the Lotus Elise, the first generation Lotus Elise. But the ND MX-5 came 5th. It was only beaten by the 4-litre Cayman GTS and the 997 Carrera and the Honda S2000. So the only car that's actually still currently in production. So technically it's the best sports car still in production, according to the readers of Pistonheads. So I read a little bump about it and just fueled my excitement of having one for the weekend. So yeah, I got in, and straight away you can feel it. The car, I was snug in the seat, because I'm 6'4", and it's not particularly commodious car, but I fit, and it's all wrapped around you. That legendary gear change, you could feel just the tightness of the controls. It was all going to be great. Even though it was late night and it was pretty chilly, I put the roof down, because I have the mantra of, if you're going to drive a convertible car, it's not raining, you should have the roof down. And then 30 minutes into my 2-hour journey, the tyre pressure monitor light came on. I was like, that's not great. I'll pull in at the next petrol station and investigate that. But before I even had a chance to do that, the rear end got really squirrely. So I pulled over and I got out, and the passenger side rear tyre was completely flat, 0 PSI. Which wasn't great, because I was in the middle of God knows fuck all where, fucking Germany. So I rang the 6th assistance number, and the guy who answered spoke English, which is great, because I'm a Luddite and I don't speak German, or a Philistine I should say, rather than a Luddite. And he was like, "Do you know where you are?" And I was like, "I have no fucking idea." He's like, "I need to know where you are." And I was like, so I was scrambling through Google Maps, giving him names, places he couldn't really find. But then eventually we worked out where I was. He's like, "Okay, I will get assistance to you. It may take up to an hour." I was like, "All right, no problem. Thank you." So I waited about a few minutes sitting in the car. And about 15 minutes later, I got a phone call from ADAC, which is kind of like, I suppose, the German version of the AA. Like, "Hey, hello, you are broken down in the Mazda?" I was like, "Yeah." And you are, I can't remember the name of the street. I was on, like Veldwald or something. "And where would you like us to bring the car?" I was like, "Can I go back to Frankfurt Airport, please?" "Oh, no." I was like, "I don't know then, man." He's like, I will call you back." I was like, "Okay, cool." Then 45 minutes passed and I didn't receive any phone call back. So I got to the point where I was like, "Okay, is there any hotels near me I can stay in? Am I going to be fucking sleeping in this MX-5? Do I just leave it here in the middle of nowhere? Can I park here?" Small bit of panic setting in. And then as I was about to just throw the keys in a field and put a freeze on my credit card, the ADAC man came along in his truck. A lovely guy, Rolf, got out. Didn't have a word of English. But he managed to communicate with me. We both managed to communicate with each other by using Google Translate on our phones. He then gave me his business card with the information of where the car was going to be brought to. And he rang me a taxi. All good. And the taxi man came along just as he was loading the MX-5 onto his flatbed. The taxi driver, whose name escapes me, he was lovely. Brought me back to Frankfurt Airport. I got back to Frankfurt Airport at 11:45. And the 6th, I googled it, the 6th desk closed at midnight. So I ran from where he dropped me off and into the terminal. I get to 6th, explain the situation. And admittedly, they were very helpful, considering they were just about to clock off. The only problem was it being close to midnight. The only thing that was left that they could give me was a grey Mark 8 Volkswagen Golf, which was fine. It's a Golf. It drove, admittedly it drives nicely. It's not going to blow your socks off, but it's very refined, very comfortable, I must say. I didn't get bum ache, backache at any point. Not an MX-5, but at that point I just wanted a car because it was midnight and a little bit over 2 hours of journey to Stuttgart. I got to my hotel at 2:30 and I just jumped straight into the bed. The next day then I woke up and I went straight to the Mercedes, because I've been to Stuttgart before and I've been to the Porsche Museum before, so I said start with Mercedes. Last time I was there, I was violently hungover. I went to go see the National in the Porsche Stadium. Convenient enough. Going to see the National again this year in Dublin this time. They're playing in September if you wish to go see them. But I did go into Porsche, steaming hungover, and it was enjoyable, but I was hanging and I was sweating. So I decided, yes, I will return. And they rotate the cars in there quite often as well, so there's no harm. It's one of those things, you could do it once a year and still enjoy it. But anyway, I went to Mercedes first. I'd never been. Got there. 9 o'clock. Oh yeah, Germany on a Sunday, nowhere is open. For like supermarkets or grocery stores. And I didn't pay for the breakfast in the hotel that I was staying in, so I was like, I'll get a coffee and something to eat when I get to Mercedes. So the museum opens at 9 o'clock, but the cafe or restaurant doesn't open until 10. So I was like, oh jeez, I was famished. Hadn't eaten since I had a sandwich on the plane, which was very good. Lufthansa flight over was actually very good, I must admit. The food was good that I bought. They gave you a free bottle of water and a free Lufthansa chocolate. It being a late flight to a non-destination city, I had a whole row to myself, and we were up and down for days before I even knew it. But yeah, so I hadn't eaten since the sandwich I had on the Lufthansa flight. I didn't really feel like standing around for an hour, so I said, "Fuck, I'll go and I'll do the trip around the museum and eat afterwards." Which was fine. My hunger kind of evaporated as I got distracted by the cars. So it's a wonderful, wonderful museum. You start at the top and kind of spiral down, and it goes down chronologically from the very early days, from the beginning, from before when they just started making their static engines all the way up to modern day. Lots of heritage motorsport cars, road cars. It's a beautiful, it's a beautiful building. There's lots of interesting things. There's kind of like little side art bits and stuff like that. So even if you weren't a car person or you had a non-car person with you, they would definitely get some enjoyment out of it. Yeah, it's fascinating. It's just so much good stuff on display. The building is beautiful. It's kind of Art Deco, has cool like futuristic lifts in it to go up and down. Yeah, I'd highly recommend going to the Mercedes Museum. Sundays is because obviously there's hardly any shops open. Yeah, any place of interest or culture in Germany then gets very busy on a Sunday. In Germany, I don't know if that sentence came out right. So I got there early, so I kind of beat the crowds. But as I was leaving, it was really starting to get busy. So then I left. I had my lunch in the Mercedes museum, which was I had a salmon bagel, which was lovely, and a coffee. You can park there in the multi-story car park, charge you by the hour. I think I paid $8.50 for the whole time I was there. Then I drove straight over to Porsche. You can park there as well. But if you go to the museum and do the tour, not the guided tour, if you go to enter the museum and park in their car park, it's €4 to park your car there, and you can stay there as long as you want. So yeah, I had another coffee, and then I went on the tour around Porsche, and I really, really took it in this time because I wasn't hungover, and it was very busy, it was middle of the day and being a Sunday in Germany. But I really took it in. I really soaked up every single car on display, and again, so much heritage in the Porsche Museum. They start from the beginning and then go all the way to modern day, and you can there's no barriers or anything. You can get right up and close to the cars. Like I was right up against the what was the name of the Porsche, the Formula 1 car? The 804, which Dan Gurney drove. I think he won the French Grand Prix. Was it 1962? I think it was. Like a dainty, lovely little Formula 1 car, cigar shaped Formula 1 car in silver. That was the German racing colour of the time. So small, and compact, and it's just a chassis and an engine and some spindly suspension essentially. A flat 8 engine, and it's just like I literally had my head in the cockpit, and it's where Dan Gurney sat and drove the car. It's just fascinating. You can get up right up to the Can-Am cars, the 907s, the 917s. It's brilliant. Just concept cars, specials. Again, if you've never been, I highly suggest you go. They're both worth a visit. They're both excellent museums. Worth the trip. You know what I mean? And Stuttgart's a nice city as well, I must say. Most of it was leveled, obviously, in the war. It's nice. It's a very kind of very, very Germanic, very kind of Bavarian town, even though it's not Bavaria. Yeah, go to Stuttgart, go to the museums, they're great. That evening then, I decided to have a few beers, because when in Germany, you should probably drink some beer. First time I drank, I decided to take a break after Christmas, because it was hectic. I hadn't drank in 6 weeks, but when in Germany. And then, so I had a few beers, and then I got back to my hotel room. I did the stupid thing of bidding on a Saab, a first gen Saab 9.3. That's up for sale. And last I checked, I haven't got any notifications since. I should probably double check. I was the highest bidder on this Saab, which I really don't want because it's an red automatic Saab 9.3 with spurious hubcaps on the rear. The temperature gauge doesn't work, and I think it said there's a bracket missing from like the steering rack or something. And let me see if I'm still the highest bidder. Bollocks, I am. Yeah, I put a bid on of €337. There's still 4 days left on it. But I fear I'm going to end up with a Saab that I don't want. What was this bit they said was broken on it? Steering rack mounting broken under servo. Hopefully someone outbids me. 92,000 miles, and the engine and gearbox are apparently in good condition. And the entity just out since December. 2-litre S. Look, if I end up with it, I end up with it. But I don't really want it. So hopefully, the moral of the story: don't bid on cars when you're drunk. It's a silly thing to do. So then my original plan was I was going to do Porsche and Mercedes on the Monday of my trip, because worst case I also had to get back to Frankfurt for my flight home. So I was like, look, I'll do Mercedes, and then if I have to rush, I can either skip Porsche thing as I've done it before, or I can just do a whistle stop tour of it. And what I was going to do on the Sunday was drive down to Munich and squeeze in BMW. But as I learned before I went, as I said previously, or no, I didn't. I said supermarkets were closed on Sundays, but on Mondays in Germany, places of culture and interest aren't open. So galleries and museums on a Monday, no. So I my flight home wasn't until I think 9:30 was the time it was due to fly out at. But so I didn't have to be in the airport till whatever, like 7:30 at the earliest. So I woke up on the Monday morning and the sun was splitting the sky. It was a beautiful day. So I decided I would take the scenic route back from Stuttgart to Frankfurt, and it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I went into Google Maps, just said avoid motorways. So it just took me through these endless little German towns, and then just through this beautiful wooded mountain tops and rolling hills, and the roads are beautiful. Now obviously if I'd had the MX-5, obviously it would have been even better. I would have had roof down and a playful chassis rather than a dull Volkswagen Golf, but nonetheless it was still beautiful. It just only highlighted the issue that I don't have a car at the moment, and I really want one, because what I did have to get to an airport, I wasn't in any rush, and it was just a lovely drive. There's a lot of very interesting cars on the side of the road going through rural Germany that just have shrubbery growing out of them. And there was lots of interesting stuff that I drove by. I couldn't stop for them all because I wouldn't have made my flight. But yeah, I suggested I would go to Germany, rent a nice car, go see the museums, and then take a scenic drive, because it is absolutely beautiful. Now obviously the weather complemented it, but either way it was just brilliant. So I made it back, although trying to get to the rental car drop off at Frankfurt Airport was a bit of a nightmare. They're doing construction. This is where I was mainly going to come into it. The Mark 8 Golf, or this whole current generation of Volkswagens, the MMI system, the flat screen, the touch screen and infotainment comes in for a lot of heat, and I hadn't really experienced it much myself, so I was interested to see how it would go. Now for starters, the interior, the Mark 7 Golf is going to go down as a high point in VW's history, because the Mark 8, in comparison, doesn't look as well. The interior, well, it's comfortable and it's nice in all the right places. The steering wheel was leather lined and stitched and everything. But for night driving, the whole thing is lit up. You've got a digital dash. You've got the digital or the touch screen. Loads of buttons on the steering wheel, which I kept hitting, and which I kept turning on the heated steering wheel by mistake, which is really annoying. And the lane assist on it as well turns on every time you turn off the car, and you have to turn off the lane assist because that is aggressive as fuck. So it's all lit up. It's just a sea of lights, which gets really tiring when you're on a nighttime drive. But the only part that isn't lit up are the stupid touch sensitive controls for the heating and the volume. You can adjust the volume on the steering wheel, ground, but the heat controls, you can't see them in the middle of the night. So like everything's lit up except those. There's hardly any physical buttons other than the ones on the steering wheel, but even those have been replaced, I think, in newer versions. This is probably one of the last Golfs to have physical buttons on the steering wheel. But the MMI system itself, now when I first got in it, and I was just wanted to get to my hotel at that point after my disaster with the rental car, that was the only time that not the only time. When I tried to get to my hotel, when I got into it and connected my phone at first, it took a while for it to sync the Android Auto to my phone, which was kind of annoying. But like when young teenage lovers connect for the first time, it was just a little bit slow and awkward. But eventually, everything worked out for the best. And then after that, it was pretty faultless. It worked fine. I was able to get around Stuttgart with it. No fault. My music would play, my podcast would play, the sat nav would work brilliantly. It was perfect. So yeah, I got to Frankfurt a little bit early, so I had a little wander around Frankfurt City because I'd never been there before. Really nice city, real kind of very, very modern. Again, would have been leveled in the war. Those are really great modern architecture. I only had like an hour and a half or so to wander around, but what I saw was great. Grand, got back to the car. Right, let's get to the airport. And this was the only time in the 3 days I had the Volkswagen Golf that the fucking infotainment shit the bed. And talk about poor timing, like, because I didn't know how to get from Frankfurt City Centre to the airport, and because my phone was connecting to the Android Auto, but the screen just came up loading settings, and it just kept doing that. So the only way to actually turn off. So you turn off the car, the screen stays on. You have to open the door for the whole car to shut down. Open the door, close it, leave it for 10 minutes, close it, nothing. It's the same thing would happen on the screen. And yeah, so because the phone's connected to Android Auto, I can't access Google Maps then on my phone because it thinks like, oh, well, you can't be using your phone while you're driving. Like, for fuck's sake. Now, thankfully, I have Waze on my phone as well. So Waze got me there. But of all the times for the fucking thing to fucking crash and freeze was when I really needed it. So I thought it was grand. I was going to say, look, I think people are overreacting, but when I really needed it, it shit the bed. But anyway, Waze kind of got me to the terminal. It took 3 attempts of lapping the fucking airport before I actually found the fucking thing. Thankfully, as I always do, I left some buffer space, so it was grand. I was fine. I got there. And flew home, and everything was fine and great. I got to bed. I must stop doing that, but I'd like to get value for my money. I booked the latest flight home, and then I was in work yesterday morning. So I got to bed at, I think it was 1 a.m. and I was back up for work at 5. So that's why this is nonsensical, because I'm trying to catch up on my sleep. And I've been rambling like a madman, more so than usual. And I will try and improve the quality of these podcasts. I'm constantly doing them after work. It's hard to find free time. So yeah, that was my trip. I'm sure you've seen all the photos I put up on Instagram. The next trip I'm going to go on will be more relaxing, but I will try and make a car. Well, I am booked to go to the Festival of the Unexceptional, which I'm really looking forward to. I have a rental car for that, a Toyota Aygo. Hopefully that goes plain sailing. I have terrible luck with rental cars. The time before this, the first mistake was I rented a car through Ryanair, which is a mistake. The company I went through, the company they gave me, I should say, was a company called Rental Car by Sicily, which sounds like a mob front in itself. The rental car experience itself was fine, but then they just kept continually debiting money out of my account for weeks, which I eventually got almost all of it back, although there's still 130 quid that I don't think I'll ever see again. And then the time before that, I rented a little i10 from Stansted Airport in London. Great little car for London. Again, the rental car experience itself was fine, But like the time here now in Germany, trying to find the place to drop the rental cars back to was almost nigh impossible. Satnav wouldn't get me there. It just kept bringing me to an underpass. Until I eventually found it by talking to a member of staff, and he was like, "Yeah, this happens to everybody. Here's the directions." But it took me so long to find it. I was rushing for my flight, so I dropped the car off, jumped out, and just ran to the terminal. And it's only when I got through security did I realise I'd left my DSLR camera in the boot. I contacted them. They said they couldn't find it. I've never seen that again. So hopefully my next rental car experience will be less stressful. Right, I'm going to start wrapping up now because I've been rambling like a madman. How long have I been talking for? Just a little over half an hour. It's better than last week. Last week I spoke for nearly an hour. What the fuck was I talking about? I don't listen back to these. I'm sure no one's listening to these. If you are, Jesus, God bless you. So as I always do, I will round up with some things of the week as I do. My classified find of the week, I'm going to go for it this week, is a 1985 Bentley Mulsanne, the 6 3/4 litre V8. 140,000 miles. The pictures is it in Dublin? Yeah, it's in Dublin. The pictures show a very well presented car. I'm going to assume it's black. I'm colourblind. Yeah, a very well presented car. Well, I'll read the ad description for you. For a change, I actually have the information in front of me. Then, as you probably noticed, as me typing away in the background. 1985, 130,000 miles. Nice and presentable condition throughout. Runs and drives well. Has never failed to start. All these for refinement, blah, blah, blah. It was in very reliable daily use. It's been parked up since Christmas. 4 new tyres last year. 40 years old, so it's looking at perfect. It's not a concourse car, but it seems like you could use it as a daily driver if you wanted to daily drive a Bentley. The only reason I bring this up is because it was up originally for $5,500. He's dropped the price down to $4,500. That's a lot of car for the money. I could buy that. I know I shouldn't. It'd be a brave man to buy an old 80s Bentley, but $4,500 for what looks like a very present. It's not like I know he says it's not perfect, but it's definitely not a shonky Bentley Mulsanne. So yeah, if you want to have a classic Bentley for less than $5,000, there you go. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna save that out and see if it's still there in a couple of weeks. And I might, once I don't win that Saab, fuck that fucking Saab. God, I hope someone outbids me soon enough. My bid's at €337. If someone wants a Saab for €400, please outbid me. It's on Dave Goulding Cars. Dave Goulding, if you're listening to this, which is unlikely, I don't want that Saab. Please help me out. Somebody help me out. I don't want that Saab. So that's my classified find of the week. My song of the week. I'm not going to go. Well, I will pick a song off it, but I'm a bit late to the party with this one. You might be familiar with it, but not that I'm a music snob. I'm not a music snob at all. If you look at my iPod, it's vast and eclectic, and I just love any form of music. But I didn't jump onto Harry Styles, he of One Direction originality. But once I saw that he was winning all the awards, he won the Grammy for Best Album of the Year, and he won the Brit Award as well. I said I better give this a go. And I listened to it over the last few days, and it's a fucking brilliant album. So if you haven't listened to it, or if you were like me and just kind of dismissed Harry Styles, check out his latest album, which the name of escapes me. I know the first song is called Harry's House. That's what it's called. The song I'm going to pick off it just because it's the first one that comes to my mind. Satellites. Give that a go. If you like that, you'll like the rest of the album. Not that Harry Styles any means, but I said, like, if you dismissed him, give it a go. And if you didn't, you probably are like, duh, John. And then, as I always do, I will recommend a YouTube channel, a non-car one this week. I'm going to call it, it's just called Phil Edwards Inc. I think it's his @ on YouTube. He's a very, very, very proficient journalist for Vox. But he has his own little solo YouTube channel. It's relatively new. He has 170,000 subscribers. So get in there and subscribe, because he makes these nice short, very well researched, very well edited, very well put together videos on just these very interesting things about history and pop culture. They're all about 10 minutes or less, and it's very good. So check out Phil Edwards. Right, I'm going to stop rambling now. So yeah, next time you speak to me, we will have gone through pre-season testing for the Formula 1 season, and we will be previewing then the actual season itself. So that's probably what I'll be discussing when I next speak to you, if anyone is listening. If you are listening, thank you. I love you. Be safe, be well, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye.